In 1991, two hikers in the Alps found a body frozen in the ice. At first, they thought it was a recent accident. It wasn't recent. It was 5,300 years old. His body had been preserved so perfectly by the glacier that his skin, his organs, even the contents of his stomach were still intact. Scientists named him Ötzi, after the valley where he was found. And what they eventually discovered inside that frozen body wasn't just an ancient corpse. It was a crime scene. For years after the discovery, researchers assumed Ötzi had simply died from exposure, an unlucky traveler caught in a storm high in the mountains. Then, in 2001, a radiologist re-examining his CT scans noticed something everyone had missed. A small, dense object lodged deep in his left shoulder. It was a stone arrowhead. The arrow had torn through his shoulder blade, severed a major artery, and lodged itself inside his body. He didn't die slowly from cold. He bled out within minutes, possibly seconds, from a wound inflicted by someone standing behind him. Ötzi wasn't a man who got unlucky in a storm. He was a murder victim. Once scientists knew what they were looking for, the evidence kept piling up. Deep cuts on his right hand, consistent with grabbing a blade during a struggle. A skull injury suggesting a blow to the head, though whether it happened before or after the arrow is still debated. His weapons were oddly incomplete. His bow was unfinished. His quiver held only 2 usable arrows. Something had gone very wrong, and it had gone wrong fast. Then researchers found something even stranger. Using DNA analysis on his clothing and weapons, scientists identified blood from 4 different people. His own blood was found in 2 separate locations on his body, suggesting 2 different wounds from 2 different moments. But blood from a second person was found on his knife. Blood from a third person was on one of his arrows, an arrow that had clearly already been used and reused before this final journey. And blood from a fourth person was found on his coat, on his back, as though he had carried someone, possibly wounded, before he himself was killed. This wasn't a random encounter with a stranger. This looks like the aftermath of a conflict, a fight involving multiple people, stretched out over more than one confrontation, ending with Ötzi fleeing into the mountains and dying alone. His stomach contents added another layer. His last meal included ibex meat and grain, eaten shortly before death at a lower altitude than where his body was found, which means after that final meal, he climbed roughly 2,000 meters, a serious, difficult ascent, apparently trying to put distance between himself and something or someone before an arrow caught up with him anyway. Here's what almost nobody talks about. Ötzi wasn't young, and he wasn't in perfect health when this happened. Scientists found evidence of arthritis in his joints, hardening in his arteries suggesting cardiovascular disease, and even a genetic predisposition toward heart problems. He also had Lyme disease. He was, by the standards of his era, an aging man carrying real physical burdens, running for his life through high alpine terrain at what was likely already the edge of his physical limits. And this changes the picture in an important way. This wasn't a young warrior cut down in a fair fight. This was someone already struggling, someone who may have known exactly how much danger he was in, choosing to run rather than stand and fight again. We tend to imagine prehistoric death as sudden and simple. An animal attack, a fall, the cold. But Ötzi's death was neither instant nor simple. It was the final chapter of what looks like a sustained, personal conflict played out over time between people who very likely knew each other, which raises the question nobody can fully answer. What did he do? Was he defending something? Did he steal something? Or was something stolen from him? Was this revenge? A blood feud past between families? We will probably never know the full story behind why Ötzi ran into those mountains, or who exactly he was running from. What we do know is this. More than 5,000 years before forensic science existed, before anyone could have imagined DNA testing or CT scans, a man died carrying evidence of exactly what happened to him, sealed perfectly in ice, waiting. His killer is long gone. His motive is buried with everyone who knew it. But somehow, across 5,000 years of silence, Ötzi still managed to tell us almost everything except the one thing that matters most. Why?